Hi, everyone. Welcome to Living a You-Filled Life podcast, episode number 8. Look at that. We're just counting them down. We're counting them up, rather. You know what I mean. Anyway, I wanted to come on and talk about mental health, anxiety, and I'm thinking I'm going to be calling these little podcast episodes where sort of go on a rant. You know, like what's that guy, Rick Mercer? Remember his Rick Mercer report? And he had those parts of the show to be like just him giving these quick rants about some political thing. Anyway, I want that to be a thing for me now. I'm going to call them Confessions of a Psychiatric Nurse, just because I feel there's a lot to be said with my background training as a psych nurse and having stepped into this other path of healing and wellness. I feel like there's a lot to be said, and that's why I was hoping to come on here today and talk a bit. And I'd put a post up this week on anxiety because I'm in a few different mental health awareness groups, like some in England and Canada, like actually in Edmonton itself, I believe there's one. And I just like to see kind of, what's going on with people and see how I can support people. And something that I see so much of is just so much suffering and like people going through a lot of challenges. And maybe some of you might not know my personal experience with mental health. I had gone to university at a pretty young age. I was 17 when I started. And everything was okay when I first came. Like my family was all still living overseas, and I'd moved to a new city. Like I didn't really know Saskatoon that well when I started at the U of S. And everything was fine the first semester. Really, I felt like I was meeting people, making friends, connecting, getting my work done to the best of my ability. And then I went home and like back to Kuwait to visit my family for the Christmas time. And when I came back, that's when it like really hit me. And I don't know like if it was because of the weather and very limited sun, and I'd spent most of my time growing up in the desert and where we had sun pretty much all the time. But I started to have like some pretty significant depressive symptoms. And I don't really know, like, to me, it was more than just depression. I could really sense at the time, like, these themes in my life about what am I doing with myself? I had some conversations with my parents about wanting to leave university, and my plan had been to go and live in like London, just, work some place in Europe or do something for the rest of the year. And they shut that down, which, I'm grateful that that did not happen, but it makes me definitely wonder how different my life would have been if I had gone that path of just doing what I wanted to do. But yeah, it was definitely like a dark night of the soul. I remember being so depressed. I was missing classes. I wasn't going to like eat. I just would sleep all the time. And it just seemed as if I was in this weird haze, right? And for sure, it got pretty low at some points, but never to the point of actually needing to be admitted into a hospital. Thank goodness for me, because that would have been quite a challenge, I think, especially with my family being overseas and all the things that would have happened. But I definitely am thankful for my friends at the time. One of my friends in particular, like, she was the one that kind of pointed it out to me, like, Fola, like, what's going on with you? And in the midst of the whole event, I didn't realize that I was depressed. It was just I was just in this like really dark space, sometimes having thoughts about wanting to harm myself. Really like just tearful all the time. Like it was really low. I just didn't feel fulfilled. And that's when like retrospect, that's how I perceive it as. It's like I was just in this day to day, like living life, going to school. Like I lived in residence, so we literally lived at school. There was no real separation. And so it was really hard for me. And then plus, missing family, missing your previous life, like having to let go of the old, that was a hard thing for me. And kind of joke sometimes. I remember like listening to this one particular song from the movie Casper, the Friendly Ghost. Like I can't even remember what the song. It was just like I think it's the song when her dad dies. The main character's dad dies, and like it was just so this like classical music. It just like really like pulled at my heartstrings, and I would just sit in my room and listen to this song on repeat, like over and over and over, and just cry. And it was a pretty short song, so here I am like having to click it, replay, replay. But I mean, I guess we've all kind of been in places like that, but I am thankful for my friend who pointed out, hey, something more is going on here, Fola. And that's when I went and sought out some actual help from a doctor. And they put me on medications, and there was that whole trialing period, which I totally understand when, clients don't want to take medications because I remember one of the antidepressants was like horrific, like just horrific, the side effects. So I didn't really last long on that one. But eventually, I did find one that worked, and I'm quite thankful for that. And I was on it for a while, and I can't recall. I think maybe I'd stopped it, and then I kind of had another period of time where, again, I wasn't as low, but I definitely knew something was up, and I was able to catch it before it got too major. But what I could tell was I was like sleeping in. I missed classes, and I found I was more tearful, and it was just again having to be in this place and do all this, like the day to day draw of doing homework, studying, reading, going to this class, going to that class. It was just so repetitive. It was not fulfilling, but made it through that. And I feel like I can say I haven't really had any issues with those low states since then. But definitely anxiety has been something. And that was kind of what led to my conversation this week on a post was just about the use of terminology and labeling of, these mental health, quote unquote, disorders. And I see so many people writing about their anxiety and like my anxiety, this and that. And like this might seem kind of far-fetched for some people, but this is just my perspective and my experience and having worked in mental health and outside of mental health, and seeing different perspectives of what, dis-ease or a mental issue could be. Because I truly believe it's more than just a biochemical reason or even a environmental reason as to, you are having negative thoughts and that. I feel like there's this whole portion of the spirituality that we don't look at, and that is about being fulfilled or feeling fulfilled in our life and the things we're meant to be doing, whether we're standing up for our own paths or just going on willy-nilly for someone else, like someone else who's making decisions for us because we allow them to. But when you talk about anxiety, like this really comes to me because I had periods of time when I was working. I had, some occurrences of panic attacks, which to me were actually kind of due to some traumatic event that had occurred. I won't go into too much details of the whole story, but basically I was at a house party and someone like was having some type of like reaction or something to medications and consumption of substances and all that. And I guess because I was like the one who kind of knew what to do, it's like, okay, I ended up having to call 911 and get all these things to kind of play out in this way. And it elicited this huge fear response in me that I didn't even realize was still there for like over a year. I would just be driving and I'd listen to music and certain songs would come on that had like a really bassy sound and it would literally just put me back into that that like environment, that place, and that whole situation with that person that had to go to hospital from this party. And so I do believe like there can be a lot of different causes for, what we would call anxiety and panic attacks. But then it wasn't until I had an experience in 2015, yes, what I would label as my like spiritual emergence. And that's because the feelings and the sensations that I was having was quite similar to what I was previously labeling as anxiety and what a lot of people talk about when they say anxiety. And to me, again, it can be a mix of things, but I'm really feeling, and like with my work having been with our crisis team for the last like 8 years, and without sharing people's like personal details, a lot of calls and events that I would have to deal with to me just remind me of the fact of people waking up to new awarenesses of life. And that to me is what anxiety is, as well as the whole idea that we are actually experiencing our body getting excited and wanting to get us ready, for whatever event or thing is about to happen. Whether you're about to give a presentation and you're going to walk into a room in front of like 100 people, right? We can see it with our one perspective as being anxiety and that we're in a fear place. Or we can take it from a, hey, like I'm about to do this really great big thing and I'm going to rock it. And this is exciting, right? And so, I mean, I'm not going to go into too much science about all this. Maybe I can go into that. I'd have to do a bit more research, but even was talking with a psychologist and even some posts on kind of, I had shared this on line, and I know Michael had commented, Holly, we were kind of discussing about, the perspective one can hold on anxiety or fear and how that will kind of keep you in that position, right? Versus seeing it from a place of excitement. And Michael had touched on a similar idea about, there is science showing that there's a similar pathway that anxiety can provoke as well as like excitement. And the psychologist I was talking with, she had this like printout map of I'm not too sure what type of reading machine or energy reading that this was from. Like, I don't think it was an MRI, just from the way the machine printout looked, but it showed every emotion and it labeled it as well as showing where in the body there was more heat or energy being produced. So, for instance, with what was one of them? Um, oh, one was defecation, which is not really an emotion, I don't think, but like an action that obviously was more in the root, like lower area. Um, with anxiety, it was mostly the upper body and like upper torso and so on. So we were actually trying to find the emotion of like excitement, but we couldn't find that. I think we did see happy, and that was pretty much the same. There was, I think, though, it was actually a bit higher, like not so much the lower um, uh, area of like the like past the sacral, the root chakra down, but it would definitely be interesting to see more studies on that and see what scientists have to say, because there's definitely a similarity clearly where there's some type of excitation of neurons of the body and all the electrical like and chemical functionings, and that it's up to us as humans to perceive that in the way that's going to empower us. And that's really kind of what I wanted to get at is you can live life in this way of like total anxiety and fear and allow it to continually put you down, right? And I'm not saying this means like that you have to just switch your mind, because obviously there can be a whole wide range of things that can help you. Clearly, for me, medications were quite helpful. And the way I see it is the medications helped at the initial stage, and then it was up to me to figure out what other tools needed to happen. And that could be a whole other discussion. But, definitely working with people and seeing that your anxiety is actually a gift. That is what I tell people when I'm talking to them and they're telling me they're feeling anxious. They're feeling a lot of like body sensations and tingling and all these things. Because to me, it's like people are experiencing this and we're labeling them as psychiatrically like not well, right? But when we label people and just tell them, oh, here's some medications and here's some breathing things you need to do, blah, 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 it's like, okay, but if they don't have the framework to understand what exactly is happening, that's why to me, talking about energy and doing the energy work like Reiki and all like studying the shamanism has really been helpful because it helps me to see this like whole picture and that I know if I'm feeling certain sensations in my body, tingling or numbness or heat or cold or whatever, or maybe I like wake up and I have this like super kind of nauseating feeling, that it's most likely not just my physical body communicating, it's something on an energetic level. So then now I've learned if I wake up and I'm feeling a little bit of anxiety, and those are the days usually I'd be like, I ain't going anywhere. I'm going to just stay home. I like really, really have to make a conscious effort to get up and just be like, something big is going to happen today. There's something exciting out there for me, right? And that's what I try to like instill this in clients, like talking to people on the phone or people that I see face to face or even on like line clearly, because that's what kind of led me to my post. And I'm not sure what the backlash is going to be. A lot of people want to continue to stay in that victim mentality or that, like, woe is me. And that's totally fine. And again, if that doesn't resonate, like, if none of what I'm saying resonates with you, then clearly this might not be the best place for you because we must have different views, and that's totally fine. I'd love to hear what you think about this, and let's try to like help each other, like see it from each other's perspective. But that is just truly like my view. And I feel as a person who's worked in mental health and has had their own mental health issues personally and elsewhere, I think it's really important that we feel empowered and we stand from this place of like really owning what we are going through and making the shifts to support us into getting where we want to be, right? And then, yeah, seeing what happens there. And obviously, again, we don't have to do that alone. Seek out help, get a coach, get a counselor, a therapist, talk to your doctor, someone that you trust, right? There's lots of awesome opportunities out there to see your mental health from a different perspective and not one where people are just, you know, talking down about their lives and about themselves. So, really, this was just me wanting to have a little conversation about this. I'm sure there will be more postings and episodes and thoughts being shared. I love to hear what you guys think, mostly because, yeah, I want to see, am I missing something here? But this is just my personal experience. And I wanted to share that with you. So, that's it for now. I'm hoping to put some more regular postings out there. Also, for those of you who have not done a shamanic coaching session with me, if you are interested, I am still looking for some people to do complete my practicum hours. So those sessions are completely free. If you want to, or if you're interested, obviously send me a message. I will also try to keep a link for the scheduler and Calendly on here so you can feel free to book there. Because after I'm when I've completed all my hours, then I will no longer be offering free sessions. But some benefits of a shamanic coaching session are to better help you build your power story And when I say a power story, that's really about you learning what are the things in life that you've experienced and really shifting from that like victim mentality to, hey, like this thing, even though maybe it sucked, these are the powerful things that came out from it. And this is how I can move forward in life. And also, with these coaching sessions, we have the ability to do drumming journeys, which can help give you more strength because the whole basis of going on a drumming journey would be to connect with your like spirit guides, spirit animals, so that you can step more powerfully into your life, receive more like guidance because you'll be much more connected to that spirit side of yourself. And it just leads to overall happiness, overall fulfillment, and that confidence, right? Because you're going to feel the connection to who it is you truly are. So, yeah, check it out. I'll post that below. Share this podcast, and I look forward to talking to you all later. Take care.